Hello everybody, and welcome to our very first online planetarium show for the Henry B. DuPont III Planetarium. I'm Elliot Severn, Assistant Director of the Planetarium, and we're going to do a sky show in Evans and Sutherland's Digistar 6 program, which is the same program that runs our planetarium at the museum. Alright, so to start our sky tour, we are starting in the afternoon today on April 10th, and we are looking toward the west, and you can see the sun there. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to move time forward and watch the sun set. And as the sun goes down, you'll see the sky turn all sorts of pretty colors, and soon after the stars will begin to appear. And as you saw the sun set, there was one bright object which came out well before all the others. If you noticed it, it was a bright point of light right here that looks like a bright star in the sky, but it's actually not a star at all. That bright point of light is the planet Venus. And if you go out tonight and you look west, you can't miss it. Aside from the sun and the moon, there's no brighter object in the sky than the planet Venus. With your eyes, Venus looks like a bright star. But if you have a telescope at home and you magnify it, it looks something like this. Venus is a planet about the same size as Earth, and we're going to learn more about it in a little bit. We're actually going to fly there in a few minutes. And it's entirely covered in clouds. And so through a telescope, there's not a lot of detail you can see on Venus, but what you can see is its phases. It goes through phases just like the moon does. And so sometimes it's a crescent, or it's half illuminated, or sometimes it's a circle. You can see the entire planet. And so tonight, it's a little bit less than half illuminated, and it's slightly crescent-shaped. So we're going to shrink Venus back to its normal size. And you may notice that there's an interesting object very near Venus this week called M45, the Pleiades cluster. Now, a little bit down and to the right of Venus, you might see a tight cluster of stars together. It's almost the shape of a Little Dipper. So right here's the Pleiades. I drew a circle around it. And with your eyes, you can see about 6 or 7 stars, depending on how good your eyes are. In Japan, it is called the Subaru, and if you see the emblem on a Subaru car, it's the same exact grouping of stars that you see there. So if you look at the Pleiades through a telescope or through a pair of binoculars, you can see way more than 7 stars. There's actually about 3,000 stars in the Pleiades cluster. Now recently, a very special event occurred. The planet Venus actually passed through the Pleiades cluster. Here in Connecticut, it was cloudy on the night that occurred. But here's a photo taken by my friend Chris Cook on Cape Cod. He took this one in 2015 of the planet Venus close to the Pleiades cluster. A very pretty thing to see through binoculars and even just with your eyes. The Pleiades cluster is a part of a larger constellation known as Taurus the Bull. And the way you find Taurus the Bull is first by finding the bright star Aldebaran. It's a bright orange star right here just to the left of Venus tonight. And that star is called Aldebaran, and it forms the eye of Taurus the Bull. It's part of the Hyades cluster, which is the face of Taurus the Bull, that creates a V shape off of Aldebaran. So here's the Hyades cluster, which forms the face of Taurus, and he has two horns going upward, and his body goes down into the left. So this is the shape of Taurus the Bull. And here's a drawing of what Taurus the Bull is imagined to look like in the night sky. And so you can sort of see how the stars might make that shape. And Taurus the Bull is not alone in the night sky. He is next to another well-known constellation called Orion the Hunter. Now, Orion is to the left of Taurus, and the way you find Orion is first by finding his belt, which is 3 close stars in a row. So you can see Orion's belt right here, and he has 2 shoulders above him, 2 knees below him, and he's holding a shield out in front of him and holding a club high over his head. So here's what Orion is imagined to look like. And Orion is in a battle in the sky with Taurus the Bull. And now there are a few interesting objects within the constellation of Orion. Orion's upper left shoulder is a bright orange star called Betelgeuse. And you may have heard of this star in the news recently. It is a red giant star close to the end of its life. And it's one of the brightest stars in the sky. But in December and January, it suddenly got very, very dim. It went from the top 10 stars in the night sky down to not even the top 30. And we didn't know if this was a sign that it might explode soon. It turned out it wasn't that. It's actually gotten brighter since then, and we believe that it had an eruption that sent a bunch of dust into space, and that cloud of dust obscured it and made it look smaller here from Earth. And you might see down from Orion's belt hangs a sword. And there's 3 little stars that make up his sword. The middle star in his sword is actually not a star at all. It's located right here, and it's a cloud of gas known as M42, the Great Orion Nebula. Now, with your eyes, it might look like a pinpoint. It might look like a little fuzzy thing. But if you aim a telescope at it, this is what you can see. So here's a picture that I took in 2017 of the Orion Nebula through a telescope. Now it's a huge cloud of gases in which new stars are forming. And in the center, you can see some of those newly formed stars. It's one of the most beautiful objects that you can see through a telescope. And now Orion isn't alone in his battle with Taurus in the sky. He has a dog companion named Canis Major. So we're going to move to the left a little bit. And the way you find Canis Major is first by finding the bright star Sirius. Now, aside from the planets in the moon and the sun, it's the brightest actual star in the entire night sky. So it's pretty easy to find because it's so bright, but if you're not exactly sure which one it is, there's a little trick. If you take the 3 stars of Orion's belt and draw an imaginary line from them, when you go out to the left, the first bright star you get to is Sirius, the dog star. And so here's the shape of Canis Major, Orion's hunting dog. And here's some artwork of what Canis Major is imagined to look like. And this was done by an artist who I'm not sure has ever seen a dog in real life. But that is Canis Major, Orion's hunting dog. And Canis Major has a companion as well. He has a puppy known as Canis Minor. And the way you find Canis Minor, you look up above Canis Major, and you will see the bright star up here called Procyon. And now, to imagine Canis Minor, you need a pretty good imagination, because it's basically just two stars connected together. And that forms the shape of what the ancient Greeks thought was a puppy. And here's a picture that looks more like a regular dog. And so in the winter constellations, we have Canis Minor helping the hunting dog Canis Major, who is helping Orion the Hunter to fight Taurus the Bull in the sky. And so all of these are winter constellations, and about mid-April is the latest in the year that you can see these. So try to see these now before they go away. In a couple of weeks, we won't see these constellations again until the late fall. Alright, so now that we've gone over the winter constellations that you will see in the western sky tonight, I'm going to switch gears now, and we're going to fly off the surface of the Earth, and we're going to travel through space. And so the first place that we're going to go, we're going to fly to the planet Venus and check it out up close. Hold on to your seats, here we go. And as we take off from Bridgeport, Connecticut here, you are going to see all the city lights around you. The Earth's upside down right now, Florida's up top. And we're going to back away from the Earth now and travel faster than the speed of light off to the planet Venus. You can see Venus in the distance, still next to the Pleiades. And as we approach, we can see the planet in detail. And here we are in orbit around Venus. It's the second planet from the Sun, but it's also the hottest planet. It has a thick atmosphere of carbon dioxide gas, and it's a greenhouse gas. It traps all the heat. And so even though it's not the closest to our sun, it's actually hotter than Mercury. And it gets so hot, it's 850 degrees at its surface, hot enough its rocks could melt lead. Now all of Venus is covered in thick clouds, and so we can't see its surface through telescopes. We can only see its cloud tops. And it wasn't until 1989, when we sent a spacecraft in orbit around Venus, that we actually got to see its surface. The Magellan spacecraft carried a cloud-penetrating radar. As its cloud-penetrating radar saw through the atmosphere, this is what it saw on the surface. So if you look through the clouds of Venus, you'll see that its surface is very hot. It's covered in active volcanoes, and it has lava flows going across its surface. And so these are real radar images from the Magellan spacecraft in 1990. Alright, so now that we checked out Venus up close, we are going to actually fly out of our solar system, and we're going to check out the Orion Nebula up close. Here we go. So we're going to back away from Venus. You're going to see the other planets zoom away with the sun. And now very soon you're going to see the background stars actually move in their three-dimensional positions. So look at the constellation of Orion. And look how it changes shape as we fly through its stars. And here we are at the Orion Nebula. And so here on Earth, you saw what it looks like through a ground-based observation. And here is what it looks like in 3 dimensions. It's almost a bubble-shaped cloud. So this is about the direction we see it from. If it were facing the other way, however, we would not see it so well. It would be a dark cloud of gas obstructing all of those newly formed stars that are making it glow. Alright, so I'm going to stop us here, and we're going to fly back to Earth, and we're going to land back in Bridgeport. And these are all the real 3D positions of the stars in our galaxy. There's the sun ahead. There go all the planets. And here we are back in orbit around the planet Earth. And so I hope everyone enjoyed our sky tour for today. I'm going to be creating a lot more of these in the near future. Everybody have clear skies and enjoy the rest of your week.